Good evening. Welcome to the April 3rd Abington Finance Committee meeting. We are continuing our meetings with departments. We have the school department with us tonight. We have Superintendent Peter Schaefer, Assistant Superintendent Felicia Moschella. Thank you both for coming. We very much appreciate your time.
Thank you to the chair and to the members of the committee for allowing us to come and present the budget to you. And our only goal is to answer every question you might have. I know that you do a lot of work with all of the numbers, with all of the departments. And, I want to thank you for that hard work too, because I know it doesn't come with a paycheck. You all have other things, and you commit your time as volunteers. So I know how hard this committee has worked over the years. So what I have for you, and I can go as slowly and dive into whatever level you want to go into, and if there's any question that the both of us can't answer, we'll find the answer for you. I don't want to go through the whole budget book for you. You should have received a copy of this back in January. We sent enough copies to everybody for you to get one. I just want to tell you what is in here, so that if after we go you've got questions, you can use it as a reference tool, or call us, whatever you'd like to do. I also feel, as a school department, we should give you this level of information if we're doing our due diligence, so that you can look at every single number and every single account that's represented here. So what we have is my preliminary budget statement that talks about the challenges that we face. We have our planning schedule with the guide for how all of our decision-making is made on the next page. We have a 10-year budget history on page 3. Then we have enrollment data in the Abington Public Schools by grade, by school. Then we have our staffing by job type. Then we have how our budget is appropriated into different pieces of the pie. Then we have a major increase page that shows where we're anticipating the major increases in the coming year. I will tell you that this page has been updated, and we're going to provide you an update of that tonight, because as we make these projections, as you know, they're snapshots in time. We're required to begin this process as a school department in November and December, and it's already April, so there have been changes to it. Then you have a page of initial staffing requests that has also changed. And you have where we are placing our emphasis in terms of our textbook, consumable materials, supplies, workbooks, things like that, to support pre-K through 12 education on the next 2 pages. And then the next half dozen-ish pages are a line-by-line budget that Felicia has put together by school, by function, in terms of the numbers and our projections. And then you have the items that we submit for articles at the town meeting at the end. So again, that's just, I wanted to highlight what's in there so that you know you have that tool to use however you see fit. Then I also have I'm not going to do the PowerPoint presentation for you, and because you don't want me to, but I will if you want me to. If you tell me you do. I don't have the technology set up to do it, let alone you don't want me to read slides to you. But I do want to share this with you. It's just another reference point. The second slide does talk about, I just want to touch on it for a second, certain built-in increases that we're going to see as a school department. The cost of special education does escalate annually. We have to build in a budget for that. We also have to pay, obviously, our employees, and those are really our 2 big cost centers as a school department. We've also got to continue to update our curricular materials, those resources, those textbooks, those workbooks that kids are using, if we're going to be a competitive school system, because the students need those to learn, obviously. Now, that hasn't changed since the days that we all went to school. More days ago for me than other people at the table. The other thing you need to know is that our success as a system has meant an increase in population size. And so this budget is reflective of the needs of that increase. So, for example, we were talking just earlier before the meeting that the amount of money that Abington is paying to South Shore Vocational, which is a good program, and we want our students to avail themselves of it, but the numbers have provided us last year that we saved as a community about $450,000 in sending students to South Shore Vocational last year, because we're keeping more students in the Abington Public Schools. The community and the Finance Committee supported the construction of a school, and it's been a wonderful benefit to the community, to the life of the community, and it's shown in a number of areas, not the least of which is we are keeping more students in the Abington Public Schools than we've ever kept. And this is not liars figure and figures lie. This is per capita. We've never had this small a percentage ever leaving the Abington Public Schools, as far back as I can tell, as we have now, to receive either a vocational education at South Shore Vocational or a private education. And so what that means for us is a lot of things. As a community, it means that people have more of an investment in their community and their public school because their children are attending school in your town. They're not paying tuitions other places and then paying their tax bill on top of that. They're relying on us to provide that education for them, and we have that faith in us. And so we've actually just won a National Blue Ribbon Award this year, and on the 12th of April, State Senator Keenan, Representative Sullivan, the Commissioner of Education will be here to acknowledge that. There were only 3 other schools in the state that won that national award, and Abington High School was one of them. And so the Secretary of Education provides that to schools in the United States, and your high school won that award this year. So those successes have meant that fewer students are leaving. Last year we talked about, when you supported us, we added full-day kindergarten. So not only does that money that was going to South Shore Vocational now pay for kindergarten, we get more reimbursement from the state in terms of Chapter 70 money to the community based on those successes. So the reason I'm spending so much time talking about that is because that also means that we have an increased population size at the high school, and you're going to see in the budget priorities that we have, we're trying to address that. So I'll hit on that when we get there. And the rest of this document is really going to mirror what you see in this packet. The page that people generally like to spend the most time on, that I can talk the committee through if you're interested, is our major increase page.
This is an update from what's in the budget.
So the initial one in the budget packet was in January, and as I talk about this, I'll try to do a good job of explaining why numbers change as you move closer to town meeting. So this one increases our major categories from FY19 to our overall school operating budget of $23,015,592 to a proposed $23,840,984 for FY20. The first category is our salary account. In order to do our jobs, obviously, we employ a large number of people. We anticipate, and Felicia tracks every degree, every position, multiple contracts, to come up with a spreadsheet that provides us this number, that we will see an increase of $489,313 for the coming fiscal year. That fluctuates depending on attendance and substitutes and other items, but this is a number that we can be fairly certain of. Every year there is a fluctuation, but this is a number we're confident in will not be moving. The new positions that we are proposing for the Abington Public Schools. I should probably pass out
I
that.
agree.
Oh, okay. So you have another sheet that has positions on it that are broken down into two groups. So there is a special education position, a .4 full-time equivalency of an English teacher, a half-time library media tutor, and then a school adjustment counselor. The reasons for these positions, the special education and the .4 English language arts, is because we have seen an increase of about 100 students at our high school over the last 3 years. In the next 2 years, we know from our class sizes going from 7th and 8th grade in the next 2 years to the high school, we're going to continue to see that increase in class size because we have those larger classes coming, and the last two classes, the senior and the junior class, are leaving, and those are smaller classes. So if nobody moves into town, we know we're going to take on about another 25 students per grade at Abington High School than we're currently experiencing because smaller groups moving out and the larger groups coming into the high school. So if we don't add these positions in special education and English, we will have class sizes in English that will breach 30, which is the lower the class size, the better. You'd like to be in the low 20s. It's, very few classes are in the low 20s or lower. There are a couple depending on the offering, but we know we don't want to have English classes that get close to 30, let alone reach 30. And that's just the sheer numbers at the school. Special education is similar. In order to service the number of educational plans that come with an increased student population, you need more people to be able to go out to those classes to service those kids, to take care of those needs. The library media tutor, we have a high school, we have a middle school. They start and they stop at different times. And so the schedule for the library is...
Share a library.
And they share one library, which is efficient. But in order to staff it appropriately, you need to have it open longer because the middle school comes in later, so they're there later. So the investment in that resource is best served if it's available and open, and right now we're patching it together and have someone rotating through. At the same time, we've started and we've been very successful with the one-to-one computer initiative. The new building purchased a laptop for every single student at the secondary level, and that library has become a place that's the first line of defense in terms of break fix, reset computers, restart computers. You bring your computer's broken, you bring it in, you take another one for the day, that one gets fixed. And so the amount of traffic in that library and the ability for it to function as a library is compromised without the additional support.
Could they offload any of it to that one? That library? Sorry, that one over there.
For the kids to bring their computers there?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
certain things like that, could they do that?
The problem,
Is it not possible?
the problem, it's a good question. The difficulty with that would be, one, the location.
Yeah.
That's right there.
Yeah.
The kids come to school,
Yeah.
and also the network that we run and the people that are trained and know how to get them going again, because we all have the same laptops, would be us to do it with that expertise rather than farm it out. So, and I'm sure if we did send it that way, they'd be coming and saying, we need help in order to do it too.
Sure.
So I assume it's your IT people that handle
The
when they
IT
come
people
in.
hand it behind the scenes, but there's simple things that kids need, like, I don't have a charging cord. We don't need an IT person for that.
Right.
But you have to log in who doesn't have a charging cord, because we're tracking everything. We don't just give them away. Earbuds, or the battery isn't functioning and the battery needs to be swapped out. So they're going to take that computer, the IT person's going to fix it, but you still have to log Peter Schaefer, power cord, April 7th, gave them loaner number 6216, and then go. So it's just, when you've got 20, 30 kids and your learning is taking place on those rather than a book, they have to work for them, or that period of time that it doesn't work is just lost educational time for them. So it's really got to be like on-demand fixing things, turning them around, and,
And it could be first thing in the morning, or 10:30 in the
Right.
morning, or
At any,
1:45 in the
at any
afternoon.
point during the day.
and our kids have been handling the computers very responsibly. We are not seeing vandalism or damage. It's not to say that there haven't been isolated moments, but you'd be very proud of the way the students are handling the investment.
My question was more, the kids are going to the library for that,
Right.
and not a separate sort of
Exactly.
kiosk or place where the IT staff would receive that without disrupting the library?
Well, the reason we use the library is because it's a common central place, accessible to everybody. Rather than having one, you don't want high school kids on the middle school side or middle school kids on the high school side. And with the support, and it's support we want to use to leave the library open anyway, it's working.
And I think just an addition to that is, the library is always staffed with the librarian, except the outside. So it's the two people that work in the IT office aren't always in the IT office, I
Right.
guess. We attempt to keep the
Right.
library open.
Yep.
As much as we can during the day. If the two technology staff members are out doing tickets
Working
in
in
classrooms, right,
classrooms
then
on
there's no one to
projectors
receive
or
from
smart
there.
boards or something else.
Correct.
Because we've got the number of devices is huge.
Quite large.
Plus the desktops, plus those interactive boards, plus some classrooms have the voice amplification. I mean, the amount of technology, and we have two people. So, it's a lot. The last piece is the school adjustment counselor. So, I don't need to tell you that things are getting more complicated for children these days. And their needs are beyond what we've ever seen before. And we have an increased population. We have a middle school that has one guidance counselor for grades 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's a lot of kids. We have a high school guidance office that's got more staff, but those are, you're dealing with older kids, and they're also dealing with trying to get kids into college with their acceptances and all the work and the scheduling and the coursework that comes with a high school guidance office. So the school committee, the administrative team, the school department really believes that we need more than an adjustment counselor to split between the middle school and high school. But this is a step in the right direction.
Do we have a school psychologist?
We have school psychologists, and with school psychologists, they do spend their time working on mental health
Yeah.
needs, but they also spend so much of their time in special education.
Okay,
with
so it's
testing
not like,
and
yeah,
other
so they,
services.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Could it be, is there a difference between a school adjustment counselor and a counselor?
Yes, there are social workers, there's adjustment counselors, and there's counselors.
Yep,
So we may adjust this to be a social worker,
yep,
or it might be an adjustment counselor,
yep.
but that position would be that mental health position. So, and then a counselor, the more traditional counselor in a school is that person who not only handles mental health needs, but then does that scheduling piece and the working on college acceptances and those other jobs. This person would not do those college acceptance type things, the work that you have to do with all the kids, or the scheduling and getting, course selection done so high school kids get the right class. This person's really only going to focus on mental health. And so, I don't even want to, I'm not trying to be dramatic about it or in that, people, when we have these horrific events that take place in schools, people ask me all the time, we should get metal detectors. And every nickel spent on a metal detector would pay for, times 10 with one adjustment counselor. I mean, it's just the value, the bang for your buck in terms of keeping people safe and kids safe from hurting themselves or other people or all the things they're engaged in, to have someone to help them with those connections in school so they feel like they're a part of the building and they're not isolated. That's the work of social workers and adjustment counselors. And so that's
Now, would they be able to work with students to get them set up through their doctor into like other I know that's like a big problem, is trying to find a therapist who will see an adolescent is few and far between. So would they be able to kind of maybe have people that they could recommend to, I know it's insurance-based and everything, but I mean, that's a huge issue. So at least having someone at the school would be helpful. So like interim, if the kid's really struggling with depression, they go see the pediatrician or primary, there's only so much they can do. So it'd be nice to have someone they could talk to for a month or two till they get to see
It's a great question.
someone else.
They'd be doing both.
They would be like a lead, yeah.
And there are all, and the other counselors in the building do that also.
Yeah, but,
Refer to outside agencies, and people do run into insurance, and people do run into.
it's long
so
wait lists and it's tough.
There's also services through BAMSI, Brockton Area Multi-Services, that are more accessible depending on if you're struggling with insurance. So they try to get them to other agencies to get the help they need.
Yeah.
That was my next question. Is there something that like the town or the state pays for that like currently happens that we could bring in when a counselor, not this, but just like the counselor identifies some issue? Or is it, they identify the issue now, and we just have a lot of trouble dealing with it?
We outsource I don't want to say a ton, we outsource every week, every month. There are kids that go to hospitalizations,
Yeah.
that, the kids that go to other services to meet their needs.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they come back on reduced days, sometimes they come back, they come back on full days, so we get them up and running again, and feeling more comfortable.
And the thing is, there's not that many adolescent programs, so a lot of times it's like a 1 month wait list, and they're depressed and there's nothing they can do but sit in school and go to school, because there's nowhere for them, there's no beds. So if there's no beds, there's no spot, and then they sit in school. So at least if there's an adjustment counselor, someone they feel comfortable speaking with, at least there's something for them. Then they're just alone waiting to get into a program. Because like there are great partial hospitalization programs, but their wait lists are.
Or sometimes they only last for a week, and then they need.
And then the insurance says that's enough.
And they come back.
And a major portion of this position would be how the mental health issues impact their ability to learn. So being the bridge between their mental health and then their ability to learn, and working with the teachers and working with the student around how they can access curriculum in the school.
Because Felicia, you bring up a good point, because it's a downward spiral. Because if you're feeling anxious and depressed, and therefore you're struggling at school, therefore you don't do as well at school, then you get more depressed and more anxious, and it's just this downward spiral. So being proactive and trying to save people as they're falling, rather than letting them bottom out and even go out to hospitalizations, that's the
Yeah.
tier of support we want to try to. We have that now with the people we have, but we'll build more capacity with this person for those things that we're doing, if that makes sense. So then, but I don't want to move ahead too quickly. These are really good questions. Are there more questions on it?
Russ, anything?
Not right now. Thanks.
So you'll see this, these other positions were other positions that would be good for us to have. I mean, they're not pie in the sky, but we're trying to get to that consensus budget number, and so those are other positions that were requested. There were, believe me, there's other positions below that too, but that's why there's a break on this sheet.
Those were in our initial budget.
Yep.
Initial taken out in the current version of it.
Right. So then we know tonight that we have 3 people that are retiring. So that takes, we anticipate hiring people for less money than the people that are retiring. So we took an $80,000 offset, or an increase to the salary account of $562,953. We could potentially get another retirement. It happens, sometimes it happens in August. You never know. And when that happens, we take it off the sheet. Yeah, the sooner we know, the better. Programs of the districts, these are our special education tuitions, and this is what we anticipate. That account will go up. This is, I said I was going to try to explain how and why numbers move. This at $366,367 is, as of today, what we anticipate they're going to go up. They could go up or down from that. Every day they go up or down. When a child's placement changes, which happens every week, it doesn't always happen every day, but every week in the Abington Public Schools there could be an adjustment, that number fluctuates. So this is the best estimate we have at this time. And we're past the April 1st deadline, and so I'll just quickly touch on that. In Massachusetts, if you receive a student from another Massachusetts community after April 1st, they pay the bill. So that gives us some, that helps us get a clearer picture.
Who pays the bill? I'm sorry?
The other community in Massachusetts
That's
pays.
sending the,
Right,
okay.
right.
Thank
And
you.
we take
Where they
programmatic,
moved from.
we take programmatic responsibility, and they take the fiduciary responsibility if they move in after April 1st,
For that year.
for that year.
Yep.
That's so you can budget,
Yep.
or as best you can. If they move in from another state, doesn't matter what the date, we own them.
Yeah.
And so that helps give us some clearer picture on kids that move in, but that doesn't mean that there aren't kids that we currently have in the system that would change placements or come in from another state. And at the same, we also have kids, move out, and that changes this number also, so. Felicia has good news. She's anticipating, based on what she's hearing from the Department of Education and other systems, that people are anticipating a 70% reimbursement for circuit breaker of $148,572 increase. And so I'll just touch on that briefly. So for those children that are out of district, the threshold is, I'm going to say it's $40,000.
Say 40.
$45,000. For every dollar we spend on a placement over $45,000, the state gives us back, we're anticipating 70 cents on the dollar. So some years, it's a reimbursement program. After you spend it, they reimburse you the money. And we anticipate that for every dollar over $45,000 that we spend on a child that's out of the district, again, they'll give us 70 cents on the dollar. So we'll pay the 30, we will miss the 30 cents for all those students.
How do we? Sorry.
No, it's all good.
Would it? I'm trying to phrase it. Is anybody else not understanding this, or is it just
So
my
this
brain?
is, I understand because I've had
All right.
you guys explain it to me several years in a row, so, but this is very similar to veterans who we talked to last week, where the benefits that the state approves, the town pays the benefit and the state the next year reimburses 75% of the benefit. In this particular case, it's special education funds when they go over a certain
Oh, it's special
amount.
education.
Yes, special
I'm sorry.
education.
That's
No,
what I
no,
was
no, no.
missing. I just thought we.
When they go over a certain amount,
glad you asked me.
45,000.
I got you.
We're talking money. I'm glad you
I'm
asked.
sorry, I
The
didn't.
state reimburses what we pay over.
I just thought each student was $45,000 a year, so that's.
No, 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 no.
That's why I didn't
No.
keep going 100%.
Did you say 7 cents on the dollar or
70,
70%.
because it's 70%.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks.
So, in some numbers, some years that's 60%,
Yep.
50%. The worst we ever had was 50. So, the problem, well, it's bad. This is better. For a total increase of $217,795.
And that doesn't get finalized until the governor's, the state.
Until the state
final
budget is final.
Co-curricular, we continue to want to improve the experience for our kids. And one of the things that we want to do, and all communities should be doing, is increasing the opportunity for our young ladies to play sports. That's why we've added this. It is boys and girls winter track, but we have found during the winter, this program in particular adds 30 to 40 female athletes to play in the winter season. And that's why we put the emphasis there. And so, in addition to that, we have the room at the high school. The coaches go in and out, kids are working out in that room, it's being used quite a bit. But what happens is, if the coach isn't there, we don't want kids in there, for obvious reasons. So this will provide, this $10,000 will provide not only the boys and girls winter track experience, but then it'll help fund someone to be more of a, not just a supervisor of that room, but someone who can actually also be there to show kids how to lift and not get hurt. And it's just maximizing the investment in that room. Our kids are using that building. I mean, your kids in the town are there until, 5, 6 o'clock at night. And, I mean, it means they're not in other places in town doing other things. So I'm sure some kids are, but we have a lot of, I know we have a lot of kids at the high school late.
And is there some rule that you have to have a certain amount of boys and girls? Or is that just the whole thing in general? Or is it like you have to have 6 boys and 10 girls on a track team or whatever it is?
No, that's a good question. There are minimums for participation overall.
Yeah.
In order to run a team, but not based on gender.
I guess
It's more like, a hockey team, you want to have at least
Right, yeah.
15 people, because you can't have enough lines if you don't have it.
Yeah, no, I thought that there was
Are there
that was college or something.
percentages of boys' sports, girls' sports?
In terms of money, you always want to strive for equity. In terms of participation, you always want to strive for equity. So you're always trying to get to equal, and so that's why anytime we have an opportunity to put a girls' team together, we want to, because they're not equal. We have more boys playing sports than girls.
And more teams.
And more teams. So that might be, that rule at Title IX.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah. For both college athletics and
Yeah.
for high schools. So anytime we get an opportunity to add an offering that girls want to participate in, we're putting it out there.
Yeah.
A few years ago, we added girls volleyball, and this year we had so many young ladies participating. We actually had 3 levels: varsity, junior varsity, and a club or
Freshman
freshman-ish team. And that was huge for
Right.
young ladies that wouldn't have otherwise played a fall sport.
Sure.
And the same thing with
And I think this is only the second year of volleyball, right? I think it's the
or
second.
third. Yeah, it's very early in its life.
I feel like winter track's a pretty, I
It's a
don't know,
good-
it's a good sport
It's
for like a
good
lot of
sport
people, like
because
it's
there are
not
a lot
like.
of opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of
options.
different things you can do with track. You don't have to have done it for your whole life, like
Right.
softball or something, like to
Yeah.
start as a freshman in softball. It's probably not gonna happen for
Especially
you.
in Abington.
And
Yeah,
if-
it's probably not gonna happen for you, but like track, you could start, I've never done it.
And if you play another sport, running helps every sport. Doesn't matter what sport
Yes.
you play, running helps every sport.
And to add this, like, the statistics that we have is that the girls that are participating in these new sports, they had boys and girls winter track this year, supported by the boosters. And both boys and girls that came out for that team, we weren't playing another sport. It wasn't taken, they didn't not play basketball to do, it was ones that otherwise wouldn't have done anything. And the same with volleyball. It's, they're kids that wouldn't have otherwise been involved in the life of their after school.
Some are doing 2 other sports, but most they're new to the sport, trying sports for the first time.
Right, but in
At
that
high school.
season, very few left soccer to come play.
Right.
It's or left basketball to come play.
Under other school services, Felicia knows that's going to be the increase in the transportation bill. That's for the buses, because she has a contract with that company. For special education, that's an estimate, and then again, that fluctuates depending on where students are going. So this is an area that back in the original budget presentation, we had $200,000 in, and we zeroed it on trying to get to a consensus budget. In the years to come, I'm going to ask you if we can better fund or increase this area, because I want to get into an ongoing cycle in a responsible way for replacing the computers that we just purchased. So if we take certain number of grades, 2 grades at a time or a grade at a time, and replenish those, in an ongoing cycle, then we're not then we're not dealing with 7-year-old computers all at once for all the different grades.
Do you have any numbers of like the computers versus textbooks? And we spent, I'm making it up, $1 million on textbooks, and we spent $600,000 on, or whatever, $2 million on computers, but they last 3 years. So, and is the software saving us money? That, you know what I mean? Like,
It's a great question. I'm going to let Felicia answer it.
It's a great question. It's one that seems logical, that you're buying laptops, so let's not buy textbooks.
Yeah.
And what has happened is the textbook companies know that.
Yeah.
And so they actually charge almost as much for just getting a license to be able to use it on a laptop than they do to buy the textbook plus the license. So if a biology textbook alone is $90, they charge you $100, you get the textbook and online. If you were just buying the online version, they charge it $89. So there's almost zero benefit.
what a bunch of weasels.
It's cost neutral.
Yeah, and the other thing is,
So
honestly,
the thing of it is, when you are buying the textbook, the physical paper and binding is very little of what you're paying for. You're paying for the intellectual
Absolutely.
property,
Right.
the content
And it's expensive
that's in the
to-
But it
textbook.
still is
It's
expensive.
expensive
Yeah.
to do it. It is definitely more than, in our example, $1 worth of the cost. But
Right.
So there's a reason that these big textbook
textbook
companies,
companies,
they have luxury boxes at the Red Sox, and they're a textbook company.
Yes.
Well, it's because they figured out the price points, and they're not going to compete against themselves.
yes.
So the price points for using the online and the software and the technology tools are the same as the price points for using those paper, those
Does the
pieces of
state
paper.
help us or anything like that? Not with money, but with saying, there's 10,000 schools in Massachusetts that are gonna be buying blah, blah, blah from you guys, it's $100 normally or whatever. I guess they deal with every state that way, so. I mean,
They compete ferociously with each other.
Yeah,
The textbook companies do.
sounds like a good company to start.
But there's 3 big ones
Yeah, that's probably it.
that fight with each other. And their price points are those are similar too.
I'm sure they're very, very similar.
So what it comes down to, if all those things are equal, is we dissect what's the best product for our teachers and our kids to get the best education from.
Yep.
Because the price point's the same. So we fight with them for deals, try to vie for a deal or get as many free samples as we can while we're looking at it, because then we get to keep those.
Yeah, and I know this probably isn't looked at nice, but, if they have suites at the Red Sox, like, it should be something that you guys can raffle out to the kids at the school, or not raffle out, but like, meaning like somebody who did really good and whatever, like that's what they should be doing for that, because if that's really what it's paying for, then.
Well, I probably aggravated some people that are watching us at home, but I probably should save some of my opinions.
I just had a quick question.
Mike.
So, when you buy that book and you get that license, how many years do we have on the license? Because in theory, you have that book, you could have that book, if it's
Right.
in good enough condition, for 10 years. What is the license?
a typical license is 6 years.
So it's about 6 years. So.
And
It's
the,
almost equal to what the life of the book, as far as the
And what is our
intellectual
typical,
I was saying, and
property
what's
of the
like
book.
really,
typical life
like,
of a textbook?
like up to, except for like Spanish probably doesn't, or like a foreign language book, sorry, probably doesn't really change very much.
you were just saying where I
Right,
was
I'm
going.
guessing, I was gonna say, those you could probably have for like a really
Depends on
long
the
time.
subject area too.
Yeah.
So, like your science books, your math books, you need to
Yeah.
update those more frequently, because
Yeah.
those subjects move faster in terms
Yeah.
of development.
Or like, I guess US history probably still.
But the
I just remember what they used to do is they used to just come out with something just a little bit different, like especially when I was in college, and they would
Oh, yeah.
100% just dump that book.
Oh, yeah.
And when you had both of them together, it was like one page that was different, which,
And we wouldn't, so we have a curriculum review and update, maybe you want to talk a little bit about the curriculum review and update process. Because the question is, how long do you keep a typical textbook?
Yep.
And
So we have a 5-year, 6-year cycle. And so it doesn't mean that we're going to renew something every 6 years. But during that cycle, 1 year, we're looking at it to see if it aligns with what we're supposed to be teaching for kids to be successful. The next year, we're evaluating based on test scores and based on when the state may change a curriculum, what's the next thing we're going to change. In the following year, teachers start looking and piloting different programs, and using the different textbook companies' information to see which ones are actually working best in classrooms. In the following year, they would adopt something, and then it comes with professional development from the company for implementation. So it takes a number of years to work through these. And so some areas could spend 2 or 3 years just on evaluation. We're going to wait, we're going to hold on evaluation. We're just going to continue to look at this, and we're not going to change it. Because we know, the best example is social studies. We knew the state was going to be changing the social studies framework for years. So why are we going to spend a lot of money on a social studies textbook when we know they're going to change it? So we just kept waiting, and then they kept moving the timeline. So we just waited, and we waited, and we waited. So it's a depends question in the curriculum area, when the state's going to update it, how relevant are the materials we're using. But we have that committee of people that the English teachers look at the English, the math teachers look at the math, and we review those things in a cycle.
When you're done with it, what happens? Like with the disc or what, I don't know, whatever, the download, or what happens? Can we sell it, or is it just?
Software's not, we can't use the software anymore.
Yep. All right, so the software is just for this period of time, you get access to an online thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can't copy it.
No.
Yeah.
And then textbooks are just, they're disposed of following state procurement guidelines,
Yeah.
30B.
Yeah.
So if there's a value to them, then we try to get the highest value.
Yeah.
I can tell you typically, just like in college,
Right.
they change it, and you paid
worthless.
100 and you're gonna get 22 cents
Yeah.
for the book. So, but we do a competitive
It's just so, it's
disposal
just,
process.
it's so interesting in high school.
So that's on the instructional materials. So that provides an increase of $825,392, and then the total budget of $23 million, the total proposed budget of $23,840,984. So this is reflective of a 3.59% increase. The town manager's budget, I believe, has us at a 3.5. So we are close to a consensus budget. We are currently off by $19,847. So I feel confident that we'll be able to bridge that gap. That would be, another retirement coming in. That would be adjusting and ordering. But that's a gap we feel comfortable we'd be able to make up.
Questions at this point?
The different, for that, I forget what it's called, the school adjustment counselor, are there different numbers for school adjustment counselor, I forget what the third one was. They're all basically the
Social
same thing.
worker. That's what we budget for that. So it would be that social worker or adjustment counselor.
Yep.
And the difference between the two is a social worker does more outreach to families
Yep.
than an adjustment counselor does. But we would, that number would work for both.
Okay.
And a social worker, some of them can do therapy.
Yep.
Or, I mean, not that we're looking for a therapist, but I mean, they can do that too. Would a social worker be less, they would be less money, yeah. not-
Same either
Just
way.
about
Yeah,
the
same either way.
Yep.
Based on their
Experience and, yeah, and degrees and, yeah.
You guys think it's 100% needed? Right, so you guys.
I think it's I think that's one of the most important things that we could add. Mental health.
School, did we have?
I don't work, we had a school psychologist, we had
Yeah,
a
that's
lot
what
of
I'm saying,
guys.
so I don't
So I think
remember what I had
school,
there.
so here's with coming from the healthcare side, mental health is awful.
Yeah.
And you need someone, I mean, we always, if I have teenagers come in, I see a lot of teenagers, and I have nowhere to refer them because the backlog, so I'll refer back to the school, like, is there someone at the school you can see? Can you call the school, see if there's someone they can talk to in the meantime while we try and find somewhere for you to go? But the wait lists are long. and they're in school, so it's also tough to go see someone after school or before, you know what I mean? You need specific evening hours. So, I mean, that's difficult too, because you need to find a therapist who works in the evening, and who sees adolescents, and who is in your insurance, and who's taking new patients. So it would be nice, I think it's 100% needed.
So we've got, not only do we have more kids,
This huge issue, I mean, yeah.
you know, and we all have the same television and radios. You can see what's going on with families today. So those people have children, and we're educating them. So,
The question is there any real difference today as 30 years ago? Or is it just there's a bigger light on this?
I think social media's played a huge
Yeah,
part.
so maybe that's.
To me, I mean, the social media bullying, I mean, the thing is like, when kids were when we were made fun, say you were made fun of at school, you went home, it was over.
I was.
Guess what? Now we go home, and someone's, you know, sending you an Instagram, they're tweeting about you, they're on Facebook, they're putting all this stuff out, so it never stops. It never stops. There's never a break. You don't get a break from being at school anymore, because it's constantly at you. So I think that, I mean, to me, that would be awful. You know what I mean? Like, it just continues. You can't just like go home and cry about it.
It's not the people in the corner that were making fun of you.
Now it's a whole, yeah.
the story Renee's relating is one that is an example that people use, and that's, you know, if you can get through when I was a kid, I'd get through my day, I knew who the bully was, and I knew to walk on this side of the hallway. I knew what time, and I'm like, I'm good. Probably for the rest of the day, oh, there he is, I'm good. Or, you know, there's a couple.
Yeah.
I'm good. That, because there was no social media. But now when they're posting a hate page and the entire school sees it, you know, and it's on social media, and you feel like you have no friends.
Like, is that kid kicked out?
Well, we absolutely follow up on
Yeah.
that stuff. Yeah, we can't.
But still.
We can't just, we
Yeah,
can't,
no.
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
it doesn't
yeah.
help I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I
can't
didn't
make them
know-
disappear forever.
I get it. That's what I mean. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
you can't-
But we
It's not
handle
just
it.
you know, there's also embarrassing things that
Yeah,
happen
sure.
during the day. And then instead of the 22 kids in your classroom know that it happened, it's now the entire
Yeah.
lunchroom knows that it happened because someone, Snapchat.
Yeah, Snapchat, yeah.
All that, you know, so
Yeah.
that, I agree.
I think social media is.
And families are needier. We've got more, you know, we've got more grandparents who are raising babies now than we've ever had because their kids, for one reason or another. And it's not to say that grandparents aren't doing a great job raising kids,
It's a big gap.
but it's
But I think
more
the kids
difficult.
also have, I mean, their grandparents are raising them. That's
That's
not
what I
an
mean.
easy thing, so the poor kid
That's
is
exactly-
struggling that its
Correct.
parents aren't raising them, and there's that whole issue.
It's also not to say in a
Not
million
'cause they're
years
not
that
being in a good home.
that a single-parent home doesn't provide a wonderful home to a child, but it is more challenging
Well, I mean, I think statistics do actually.
to be a single parent. And it's not, it doesn't mean that kids of single parents have social, you know, have these huge social emotional needs. I guess what I'm saying is our society is getting more and more challenging for our kids to be just growing up in.
Yeah.
Between social media and the way that families are, you can have families where there's two parents and, you know, they're dealing with addiction or
Sure.
substance abuse of one kind or another, and there's more of that today than 30 years ago. So, and the kids they're not the best at advocating for their own needs with their own families. So, we're seeing them in schools.
Yeah, I mean, there's teenagers on drugs. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I didn't know anyone in high school did heroin. Now it's like not that uncommon. I mean, it is and it isn't. You know what I mean? Like the whole opiate, yeah. I mean, that wasn't really a big thing. And now it is. It's just a lot.
Access.
The access to drugs is,
Access to
Big.
everything.
Everything. They're taking computers home and, you know, in their hands and sleeping at night with them in their bedroom. And WWW stands for World Wide Web, and God knows what they're accessing.
Yeah, right.
We were talking the other day about when you had to dial up, you know, talk about
Oh,
different. You'd go like cook dinner and then you'd come back downstairs and you'd be,
Connected.
or upstairs and you'd be connected. You know, so- and now everything's instant. And that does have an impact on the kids.
Sure.
So, you guys ask good questions.
We try.
That's the information we have for you.
I have some stuff. What else do? people have for questions.
No, you go ahead, Matt.
One of the questions, last year, we talked about solar panels on the roof.
Yes, I'm glad you're asking that question. They're up and running. We are generating 0.5 megawatt. If there are any electrical engineers at home, I apologize if I got that wrong. It's a lot. And with working in collaboration with the town on a solar field that the town has, what's our most recent estimate in savings? You know that we're generating about $40,000 in electricity annually on that roof right now.
That's excellent.
Thanks.
Generating,
And using.
so 40,000 on top of, or 40,000,
We're making $40,000 worth of electricity and we're using it in the building.
awesome. And we don't have anything currently to sub it out to, say, the library?
No.
Anything like
We're
that,
using
right?
it, yeah, and
Yep.
and part of the requirement is if it goes back out on the grid, they use it. It's part of the agreement we have. So when I say $40,000, on any given day, depending on how cloudy it is, my numbers are gonna be off, but that's a general
Sure.
ballpark number. Yeah. So it was a lot of work, but it was definitely worth it. I mean, there's a,
So you still pay the electricity bill.
Right.
But it's $12,000 a month in electricity that we use minus the 40, so there's definitely a savings.
And we were definitely using a lot, like
Mhm.
50, 60, 70 a month, something like that?
well,
Ish.
the new building, it's not the lights in the building, because you're gonna drive by and you're gonna say, those lights are on, they're spending a lot of money. It's not the lights on the building that cost money.
Sorry, the efficient
It's
bulbs.
the air exchange, it's the little fans they use to exchange all the heat and airflow that costs the money. So we're using a lot of energy with that.
Somebody might have answered this a couple weeks ago. Why no air conditioning in the gym?
It's, the building has what's called conditioned air.
Yep,
So it takes the moisture out of the air,
yep.
and gyms, there's a way to dump the air into the gym, but it doesn't have a continuous flow. The amount of money to air condition a gym, you'd never turn it on. And then you'd pay to design and,
So it's there, we don't use it, or we just said, no, we're not gonna
well,
use
it's
it there
not,
'cause it's too much?
it's not air conditioning, it's conditioned air in the building.
Yep.
And the difference is that it does chill it, but not like an air conditioner, like in an office building.
Yep,
And
It feels cooler because it's less humid.
because you'd never, so they don't design, you don't design air conditioning into gyms, and you don't design that traditional air conditioning system into a building, because it's so expensive to run, you'd never turn it on. So all of these new buildings across the state have, like I said, they call it conditioned air. They take the moisture out of it, and in the gym, there's an ability to dump, all of that, or like a reservoir of conditioned air into the gym, but there's no air conditioning in the gym. So, on the election day, people were really upset about that. Well, we paid for this building, but there's, the air conditioning's broken. Well, it's not broken. Actually, you guys have all the doors open because it's so hot out, and we've already dumped all the conditioned air in here, and that was it. That's all we got. And it's an election day. There's no way to keep those doors.
yeah.
But that's when more.
I mean,
about-
kids are generally not in school, like, when it's super hot, so to, like, pay for,
And so,
sounds like it'd be, like,
kitchens,
ridiculously expensive.
Locker rooms and gyms, you really can't air condition. Well, you can,
Effectively.
but you can't effectively or cost efficiently
Yeah,
because there's
cost
so many
efficiently is
air
the-
changes that need to happen per
Is the key.
hour that you cool it and then send it out, cool it and then send it out. By code, because of those spaces, kitchens, locker rooms, gyms have more air exchanges per minute than a classroom, for example. So and the hardest thing has been to retrain ourselves that when it's hot out, keep the doors closed. Because you're letting in humidity and heat
Right.
that we're conditioning.
Yep.
And that's been really hard. You try to get the cross breeze and it actually defeats the purpose.
Really? Yeah.
Same with opening classroom windows. Classrooms are not air conditioned. They're not air conditioned, it's conditioned air. And when you open a window, you're bringing in the humidity that the rooftop units are working so hard to take out. feel like I've become a conditioned air conditioning.
I feel ridiculous saying it's conditioned air instead of air conditioning, because the play on words, but that's what the engineers and the people, tell us it is.
Yeah.
So like, instead of saying used, you call it pre-owned,
It sounds like it.
I didn't make it up.
Full-day kindergarten.
Yeah.
Last year we talked, we've gotten a update from the town manager and town accountant, but just from you guys' perspective, the numbers and what we expected back from the state.
Do you want to?
Sure. So last year when we were here talking about adding all-day kindergarten, we asked for about $450,000 from free cash with an anticipated return the following this year, for next year in Chapter 70 money. And when the Chapter 70 numbers came out, it was actually over $1 million increase in Chapter 70 based on all-day kindergarten. And remember, we talked about neither all-day kindergarten alone nor our increase in enrollment alone would have brought us to the threshold to increase our Chapter 70 money. But because both of those things happened at the same time, we have the benefit of the increase in Chapter 70 money to almost over $1 million. So it was, I think, fantastic news, and it was an investment well worth making. And I think having the all-day kindergarten will continue to reap the benefits. Our children will continue to reap the benefits of that.
So that's what I was trying to say earlier, not only do we save the money in terms of the tuition that's going to social vocational, nothing against social vocational, we're spending that money in town, and then we're getting the benefit because we have increased numbers of an increased reimbursement from the
When
state.
you look at
So it's
the
like a
enrollment data, it's crazy how much it goes up.
Right.
From like 12th grade, how it seems like we must have lost a lot of kids' houses are only 109, then there's 170. So we must have lost a good portion to wherever, not just
Right.
social VOTEC, but.
And if you look.
And then even the 126 and
The
then.
10th grade.
Yeah,
is
when the school was when was it
when
built?
the
2 years
school was
ago,
first
right?
Yeah.
Yep, so then, when it was first introduced, it went from 126 to 149. It's,
Right.
you can see, yeah.
And then we know, again, because grades 7 and 8 are, if they follow the same trend, we know that the 11th and the 12th grade are smaller, they're leaving, so I know we're going to get at least another 50, 60 kids.
I mean, the houses they're building are big. I'm assuming people with families will be coming.
We've,
I mean, you don't
Yep.
know, but I mean, the new houses that are being built are large, so I'm assuming that there'll be more children coming.
We've actually also checked the birth rate. In 2016, there was an uptick in the number of births in Abington. I don't know what was in the water that year, but it was. And so we're anticipating another bubble coming through when those kids reach kindergarten age. And then in terms of the housing, we did a demographic study that includes housing starts, and that's not the most exact science, because you never know when those housing starts are coming on, and you never know. So sometimes, even though they build a house that's a 3-bedroom that you would anticipate would have a family, sometimes the family doesn't move in, or sometimes you get a family moving in a 1 or 2-bedroom house that you didn't anticipate
Yeah.
was going to get a family. And then sometimes you get more senior people in Abington want to stay in Abington, go to senior housing and stay in Abington, and they move, and their home goes on the market, and the family moves into that, and a demographer will never pick that up. Because that's just that house becomes available. It's not a new housing project.
Right.
It's just somebody that moved in town. So we track that very closely. That's why one of the positions we had in there was another elementary teacher, in anticipation that we were going to breach a number at the elementary level. We're not seeing that yet, but we watch it all the time. So.
Last year, you had several retirements. This year, you have several retirements. Obviously, we're bringing in newer teachers, generally at a lower rate. Are we concerned about a trend with the quality? Like, a newer teacher is not going to have the same experience as a teacher that's ready to retire.
You always, well, we are tracking what we normally track for the number of retirements. We get 3 to 5-ish a year.
Per year.
Yep. And you always worry about that with the newer teachers. And so you hire the best people in the competitive market. And the earlier we can go and do that, the bigger the pool, so you get the better candidates. We pay for our area of the South Shore, we pay the average wage. We have scheduled ourselves purposely to be right in the middle because of that reason, because if you get somebody and it's a revolving door, you're not doing the kids any, you're not helping the kids any, you're not really saving money. We have orientation, and we have mentors that help them to try to improve. So we do everything we can to support them. But that's an ongoing project.
And
And our evaluation, supervision and evaluation is both, it's to improve instruction. So when you're a new teacher, your administrators are in the room a lot, giving feedback.
Probably more than anybody wants, but a lot.
with the new school, are we seeing, we saw an uptick in students, are we seeing better candidates for our open positions?
Yeah, people have said, and I didn't necessarily think I'm being honest, I didn't necessarily think we would, but we are. People are saying they want to be a part of that, they like that environment. I don't know if it's the reason they take the job, or it's a nice thing to say when they get the job, or how much of a factor it is, but people have said that.
If conditioned air.
What else could you want?
What else is out there?
I'm sure the Blue Ribbon Award helps that too.
Can we get that next year, or is that just one of those things where it's like, that was pretty?
You try to get it,
Yeah, okay.
and there have been systems that have gotten it more than once. It doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen.
I remember looking through when it was first announced, and there were, maybe 250 schools in the whole country
In the country, yeah.
that got it. It was very selective.
There are a lot of schools,
Yes, yes, there are.
so. And it's elementary through high school, it's not just high schools. Yeah.
I don't remember some of my other questions. Don't want to let you guys off easy. Approximately what percentage of students are on IEPs? That was an IEP. That was one of the things we talked about last year.
I believe we're currently tracking between 14 and 15%.
That's where we were.
Is that average? I have no idea.
It's a little below average, and then there's a debate that rages that Massachusetts has more kids on IEPs generally than other states, and so there's a debate on whether that's good or bad, or whether it's because they're receiving adequate services in regular education classes, or so there's always a lot of discussion about that, but it's not far off
From the usual.
from what other systems have. So are we under-identifying, or are they over-identifying, is a question. Is it because they have supports in classrooms, or not, so it depends. And each student's different.
For Felicia, what's our transportation budget this year?
So regular education transportation is about a little over $1 million. And we're going into the 4th year with the school in order to exercise the first year option for the first student at a 2.5% increase. So, which, if you go out to bid, you're seeing double-digit increases, so I was happy to be able to recommend the first year of 2-year options.
And out of district?
Out of district is it really does fluctuate all the time. It's
Is it the 14? Oh, no, never mind.
it's increasing by, I just.
that's the one.
That's the
Yeah.
VOTEC, yeah.
That's right.
And you get the bigger paper.
I do, and new glasses. I can see.
It's that landscape paper.
Increasing by
Yeah.
320, right?
Let's see, special transportation.
You're doing it without glasses.
Contacts.
I'll find it.
What was the question?
What's that?
What was the question?
Did you find it without glasses?
How much the out-of-district one?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
out of district transportation.
page 11, or, yeah, of that.
Yeah, I found it.
Right, page 11, a couple back, it's middle.
Total out of district expense.
Maybe I'm reading it wrong.
It is 420, sorry, it's on the last page of that. It starts under. On page 15, page, sorry.
16.
It's on the 16, yep.
Yep,
So
16.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the fifth.
Sped
Fifth cell down.
Transportation. What's our 7? Sorry about that. I need to make that different color next year.
Just because I remember that was a large point of discussion last year.
And, yes,
So what was the figure, I'm sorry?
427,000.
regular transportations, it's, 850. And so, special education transportation is another area that's quite difficult to estimate.
Yeah.
Because every time there's a change in placement, there's a change in transportation.
Okay.
Additionally, we're required to transport students who are considered homeless. So they live, if Abington was their last school and they become homeless, then we are required to transport them back to Abington. And if splitting the cost of transportation with the community that they're living in, and the same as vice versa, if they're living in Abington as homeless, we share the transportation for student going to another community. So that's one that you have no idea what that's going to be. And there is some reimbursement that comes in, the percentage is different every year that comes from the state. And so we have a homeless transportation revolving account, but it doesn't typically cover what the expenses are.
How's someone homeless and then,
So you missed the beginning.
oh, all right, good, sorry. Sorry.
I was
that-
saying, how do you mean,
If
how is
they're-
someone
if they're
homeless? I was like,
homeless,
okay,
But their
great.
last
School was here, we have to
address,
bring
their
them
last
here.
school was Abington. We are responsible for transportation.
Like, how would they know where to pick them up? That's why.
Like if they're at a shelter.
Shelters.
So like, yeah, like a homeless
Okay, I
shelter or
got you.
something,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. That's why I was just sitting there.
Depending on the way that the state is working with the homeless population, a lot of times they'll
Yeah.
be in shelters, they used to,
I got you.
and then hotels and motels, pushing away from that. There's a lot of
Doubling up with
different
relative.
things
Yeah,
could be
got
going
it.
on.
Makes way more sense than what I was thinking.
And it provides, the purpose of that is it provides stability for the children in an unstable environment.
Sure.
They at least can come back to the school that they were at.
Then I think my last question is, how are the two of you getting along without Dr. Thomas this year?
James Robbins is now our, he's working in special education, and he's doing well.
Excellent. Good to hear. Other questions? Mike?
All right. First and foremost, laptop questions.
Okay.
Love my laptop questions. So, what are we doing as far as, you said like when the students come into the library and they're swapping out cords or they're getting repair cords, right now you've zeroed out, because you had the budget was 200K
Right.
for the 5-year going forward, which I'm assuming is gonna be not only repairs for the laptops, replacement for the laptops, but replacement parts for the current laptops.
Well, we believe that after they get to like a 5 or 6 year age,
Yeah.
we're gonna need to replace them. So we wanna start a cycle of replacing a grade at a time, so we don't have to replace
Right.
1,000 laptops all at once.
So so when the student loses a cord
Yep.
5 or 6 times in a school year, because sure it happens, I know somebody. How do we recoup that money, and where is that coming out of the budget currently? Because you figure those cords are
They-
probably like $20 a piece,
They pay for what they lose.
so the students are gonna be responsible. Is there a level like, okay,
They get a
we
lender.
lost this one?
They get a lender, and then, so they keep going, and then they pay for what they lose.
And, that's also
The
with any
lines are-
damages?
Sorry?
Like damages with the laptop also, like, so,
Depends on the damage. If it's an inadvertent, just something happened, we take care of it. If it's malicious, they pay for it.
then, sorry, didn't mean to step on you, start and say something.
No. I was just saying that we do have money in technology line items. We didn't zero out those accounts, we zeroed out the increase.
So it's the increase of what will go forward, say, 5 years of what we're
Right,
gonna
they-
need in 5 years.
Which is why we took
Correct
it
me if I'm
out.
wrong, what you zeroed out was replacing
Correct,
Yeah,
devices, like
Yeah.
a grade's worth of devices,
Correct.
correct,
not maintenance.
right.
And then my next question is on the tech library media center, it says the support for the one-on-one laptops for grades 5 through 12. Are we adding 5th and 6th grade now? Or on take-home, or are those strictly 5th and 6th grade are stay in the school laptops? Or is this something new? Because I know,
Nope, so the one-to-one is 7 through 12, and on that, the integration of technology in 5 through 12 is what that was referring to, the 5th and 6th grade. Support the one-to-one laptop initiative and the integration of technology in grades 5 through 12.
so
So we have
it's not-
laptop carts for grades 5 through 12, so there's classroom sets. But we're not adding one-to-one we're not giving a laptop to 5th and 6th graders.
Maybe an Oxford comma would have helped Mike.
But also, with that position, again, that's also extending the hours of the library for us, too.
right,
So it's not just.
it wasn't about, the question wasn't about the position, the question was about, I know we only
Laptops
had
for-
7 to 12, and I was like, are we adding 5 and 6
As,
now?
as the parent of a 6th grader, I am well aware that 6th graders do not get laptops.
The next is, what are we doing to restrict the laptops? Because I know
Access in terms of bad stuff on the internet.
Roblox, Fortnite,
Yeah.
it's happening, so
Yep.
are we is there an
Are we
initiative to
trying to
stop
stay-
this? Especially
stay-
whether they're in school or on the home network.
We have the best filtering possible, and it's not perfect. So we update it, and once in a while, so like, if you're doing a project on mating of the 3-toed frog, well, you know, you could put in a search for something, and something could come out of it, like you didn't want. If you're doing an anatomy project on a person, and an image of someone, you know, naked comes up, that stuff can sneak through. Sometimes you get pop-ups for ads that we didn't want to get. But we have the best filtering system you can have, but nothing's perfect.
But I think this is more
Like,
specific.
can you go straight to Facebook and be like, hello,
Gaming.
bully, whatever, I didn't like you in the.
We can track
I
where
have-
everybody's been.
I have
So if something becomes a
definitely-
problem, we can see, but they can go on Facebook or social media, because it wouldn't be blocked unless there's something on the Facebook or social media that has like, how to make a bomb or something sexual or something like
Yeah.
that. Then it would get blocked.
Yeah. Can we block it?
We wouldn't
Or do we
necessarily
not
want
want
to. Yeah, we wouldn't necessarily want to, because they're blogging for some of their writing and projects and things like that. I mean, they're using social media as part of their projects.
Well, I'm gonna be very specific.
Oh,
I know for a fact that I have witnessed a school laptop go onto Roblox and somebody play Roblox as a game, not searching for school projects and having to then block that laptop off of the network. Are we looking to block gaming, like installing Fortnite, installing what you need to for Roblox? Any of these games, World of Warcraft, any games that we're installing stuff onto those laptops? Is there an initiative to block those, or even block the websites themselves, like
Things that are,
Roblox?
things that are age appropriate are gonna get, like that, are gonna get through, like Minecraft or something like that. You know, they're gonna get through. But as long as they're not doing it during algebra, it's not, that wouldn't be a problem. Now, if they're playing a violent game that's beyond the age, then it is. So we can track everything that they've done, and we can block, so if there's a problem, we can find out exactly what they were doing. I don't know if I've answered your question.
so for me, right, like, so I'm pretty harsh with this stuff just because I have a 3 and a 5-year-old. They don't, whatever, they're not there yet, but like, I want to be able to say, no, you cannot use your school taxpayer computer. I don't even know what Roblox is for the records.
I was just thinking that, I was like, what is this? Yeah.
So I don't want that. So like, that's what I would want. I don't want you to go on Facebook on that. If you want to do it on your stuff here, why? I have different reasons, but like that, I would want them to stay specifically there. Is it something that we sort of can't say or can't stop them from doing? Because like what you just said, because they're blogging and doing stuff. I didn't know you could do stuff on Facebook for schools. Again, I'm definitely not the guy to talk to about what you can and can't do. But is there a way that we can limit it somehow? Only because what I've heard, forget about this meeting, in the past like year is that Facebook is hurting a lot of kids, especially the bully stuff and whatever. That, not that I buy into it as much as probably everybody does, but I've heard it a lot more. So if it's there and we can block it and make them go on their personal computer to do it, is it somewhat of a roadblock to actually using that, and maybe just that 30 seconds that you say something stupid and you actually have the 30 seconds back to just be like, whatever. Again, maybe it doesn't stop a 6-year-old or 6th grader or whatever. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But that's more of my question. Can we say, look, this really is, because that was my one fear, is that when we bought these, you could do a lot of things. A computer's pretty versatile. You can do anything you want on the computer. So it scares me just a little bit that, and again, the kids are good. I trust them. They're all good kids. But it's just more about all the stuff that I keep hearing about bullies being out there, about bad things being out, about just, people going on, I forget what it is, some sort of app that they can get messaged by child predators that have just been hanging on it. You know what I mean? And I didn't know people would do that. So,
Depending on the age.
Yep.
We do. It's got to be age-appropriate content, and that's not perfect.
Yep.
But if you had like a senior, junior AP social studies class that was researching primary sources and having to compare and contrast information, you could use some of the bogus stuff on Facebook as an example of myths
Sure.
that are misleading. And that's a healthy civics lesson for American children to learn about politics. And so we can't, and we don't want to, depending on the age, block everything.
Yeah.
But we don't want kids playing first-person shooter games in 6th grade, 7th grade.
I'm literally hearing that it is happening.
So they should
I'm being told
call?
by a student
Yeah.
that it is going on a daily basis.
Then that person should call the school and tell us that that's happening, and then the tech part
Do
can
they?
look at that computer and see where they're going, see what they're doing, we take care of it.
Do the computers have restrictions on installing software?
They can't install software on their own.
Yeah, I don't believe they can.
No.
I know that's what we talked about.
I'm assuming they're set up with being a user
Right.
And there's an admin, I mean.
Right, I would
Right.
We
assume
just set
there's
those up at my company that way, so I'm
the
making the
student is
assumption.
not the
that's
admin.
Right.
I don't know, but I'm.
Yeah, like I don't think I can like download like random stuff onto my
Right.
work computer.
Yeah.
You know what I, yeah.
But I don't know about these third-party, like through a website game.
Because I have heard from my high school student that lots of his friends do play Fortnite on theirs, so.
It's just, like I said, working in the industry I work in, I know those things can be restricted on the server side, so they can't, even if they do install it, it can't get out because you can't ping through the server to get those games going. And I guess my question is, are we looking into, because once again, I've seen install.
To clarify, are you saying while they're in school, on the school?
While
server?
they're in school,
Okay.
on the school server, it's happening. So my question, of course, is, you know, I know it's not perfect, I know these kids can find ways around whatever walls we're putting up on these laptops to install software, and I know the software is getting installed. It's the nature of the beast. They're 6 steps ahead of where we are. And I guess the next question is, can we look into blocking access to, not to stop them from researching, because, you know, they're gonna have to research whatever, but it's like specifically blocking so they can't ping out onto Fortnite, they can't ping out onto Roblox, they can't ping out onto Minecraft or Warcraft or any other game that they can play socially.
Well, let me do this. Let me give you let me, through the chair, give you a more technical answer from the tech office.
That would be great.
That would be good. And then finally, to get off the laptops, my question is, we have heard that we are in the process of possibly buying a printing press to print T-shirts as some type of a store for the school. My question is, what is this overall going to be cost effective? And then the second part of it is, is there a mechanism in place to provide those services for the town? For example, printing, getting the shirts for Eager Beaver through the school instead of an outside source.
Abington celebrates.
Abington
whatever.
celebrates, or whether it's a direct town, because I think Abington celebrates is more of like a outside, but like, does the
Yep.
town, would the town get a discount through the school, or like, is that a benefit that then
So
comes back onto
if
the town?
I get this wrong, maybe Greg can correct me.
Oh,
Because he's a member of the building committee.
I don't think I've been there a couple times.
No, you were there for this one.
Yeah, no, this one I definitely was there for.
So we,
He's our source.
and he gets the credit and I'll get the blame if it doesn't work. So, through the business office, we're setting up a school store. And so through the school project, the school store and the equipment in it is being paid for by the building project. So Abington is, you know, that's how we're funding it. It's not through this budget process. So the school store needs the startup money to set up the cases and the cash register, because it's going to be a business, an entrepreneurial business experience for our high school kids. And that printing is part of that. How sophisticated and how well that printing is going to go, I'd like to see it work first before I make a commitment to like outsource projects around the town, because potentially we can do that if it works. But it's supposed to be a self-sustaining entrepreneurial business project through the business office that the startup money was
Not the
provided
business
by.
office, the business department.
The business department.
Teachers.
The
Sorry.
business education.
Correct,
Correct, yeah.
correct. So, I think I got it right.
Yeah, did they end up going and do, I think what he was, did they buy the printing machine, or were they just buying the T-shirts from blah, blah, blah,
The service.
whatever the college
I
thing
believe
is?
screen printing was a part of it.
Yeah, it's a printer, it's but I haven't seen it, it hasn't come in yet. My understanding is it's on a high speed, it's like insert a product, it prints it,
Yep.
you won't take it out. Insert, it's not a high speed.
Well, is it to do
press.
T-shirts, or is it
It's
to
to do
do?
clothing.
Clothing.
Yeah.
So I'd want to, it's supposed the funding is supposed to be self-sustaining, and then I guess we'll see how it goes. If it's something that would work,
So we're not
To
even. be a product
outsource.
that could-
right.
The volume.
The volume of what we would need
Yeah.
for.
If it's something that works in that way, it'd be a great idea.
I think their initial thoughts are math team, and there's gonna be 15 shirts that need to be made, we'll do 15 shirts. Or if you wanna buy an Abington logo sweatshirt, you can order it, they can make it.
My only request would be is to get it up on a website as soon as humanly possible, and you don't need to make one extra T-shirt before it's ordered.
Right.
And you can
Right.
sustain it a lot better if you allow people to just purchase it and actually have somebody that can be
On
there making
demand.
it. Yeah, that's the only good thing about having the printer. I'm against it, just because I would rather not have a piece of equipment that somebody has to fix when it eventually breaks. So, and that was more of my comment when I was there that night, like the entrepreneurial thing you don't really need to know how to fix that particular thing in order to actually, see if you're making money or losing money in a business.
You could outsource that.
Correct.
Yeah.
And especially in the beginning, you can outsource it and then look and see what a margin is and looking to see, all right, well, if I spend 30 grand here and I can depreciate it, and then I can look at it and say, okay, well, each shirt's gonna cost me $3, I can charge 10, that's 7, I make 3 now, that's 4 extra dollars. You can look at all those things down the road, and that, it was just more of if you look at every single college, not one of them
Right, they
really
outsource it.
has, they go through whatever, I forgot what, I gave you guys the company. It's every college you've ever looked at, and you goes to this one company, and they're the ones that print the mugs and give you the T-shirts and all that other stuff. Some of them have better relationships with that company than others, but I forget what the name of the company is. Yeah, I don't remember, but.
She took it that night.
Yeah. And that's other stuff too. I would like to see that stuff, more Abington T-shirts there. I mean, they're my kids are always looking for them. People that ask me for stuff, like when they're out fundraising or something like that, it'd be great if that stuff is there.
Right.
Hopefully, no matter what they do there, these guys think about getting the actual name out to as many people as possible. So,
Helps the school spirit.
right. Helps the whole town.
Sounds like he's teaching the class already.
They don't want
Be a guest lecturer.
Yeah,
They definitely
absolutely.
wouldn't want me.
Professor Emeritus.
And my second question is there a plan to do other items, mugs?
Mhm. And I don't know if they'll follow Greg's model.
Is it on the same printer, or is it?
No,
I don't think you can. I think at that point, it starts to become a little bananas, right? Because then you have to have a mug printer. Well, I don't know. I don't know about 3D printing and all that sort of stuff. But like things change. You can put a lot of stuff on
Things
clothes,
on bananas.
but then you move away from it, and it really does turn into a different thing.
So we're gonna outsource to get that
right,
stuff?
and right now we're talking about a program that doesn't even exist.
Right.
We're still developing it, but that's the plan,
Yep.
to do those types of things.
And I actually had a conversation just today with the head of the business department, and talking about just this.
Yeah.
That they're trying to figure out what they want to start the store.
Yeah.
And start small, they're not gonna buy 30 dozen pairs of shoelaces to not sell, like start small, see what sells, like then it makes a little bit of money, we can buy a little bit more, and
Sure.
that it absolutely is self-sustaining.
One of the things they're gonna sell are earbuds for the computers
Mhm.
And chargers.
and chargers. So people that lose earbuds and chargers can buy them.
That's great.
Yeah.
And if they need help, I mean, please, you can always call me, which I would never mind helping.
And they may really have you come in as a
Yeah.
speaker. as a
Yeah.
Seriously.
business
It's easy.
It's easy when it's written in front of you.
owner. Yeah.
Russ, any questions?
Not at this time, no, I'm, okay, thanks.
Renee, anything else? Greg?
That's it.
We'll get back to you on the follow-up. Okay.
Definitely
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you for your time.
We're not, we're around. If you think of something, just send us an email or ask us a question. I really appreciate you asking the questions because sometimes misinformation gets out there and people really run with it. So I like that.
Thank you.
Matt, did you want these extras for the rest of the committee?
Yes, please.
Or I can
I'll
send-
hold on to them.
Okay. Thank you.
Did you have my info from South Shore?
I do not. Peter, can you tell us
Good job, thank you.
Thank you for your help.
Bad.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Moving on to the second half of our agenda. See if the town manager has any updates for us.
This won't take long. So, the second half of the agenda.
Second half being
Actually, I just
new business, old business.
here to distribute a draft of both of our meeting warrants.
Thank you.
The warrant is technically still open.
This a draft?
How can you tell? Until on Monday night, the session will be closed.
Pass the rest.
Thank you.
Pretty sharp.
Because of the, I'll email this to you too.
And so the people on camera can
Can you speak in my company?
understand what
Yeah, well,
Greg was asking.
what I'm not sure is why this is not marked draft. You know?
Yours probably isn't.
So, this is
Look at the trees that we use here.
probably somewhere between 99 and a half to 100% final after the last month or so collecting articles. As you know, the special town meeting tends to be closing out issues, projects, balance transfer, budget transfers at the end of the year. You know, I wouldn't say there's anything extraordinary on there. I'm going to give my last copy away. Renee, do you have one?
Oh,
Yeah.
At the end of the
Nope,
line,
here,
Okay.
the special.
Oh, the draft.
Like I said, this is still open technically, but it's going to be closed on Monday night.
This is 2020, right?
This is, special is
This is-
2019. This is
yes.
basically closing the books on 2019.
You're right, but the budget,
The annual
Yeah.
town meeting,
2020.
Yeah.
FY.
exactly.
the only thing I'll say is I get to talk to some pretty good people when it comes to what's going on, sort of their idea going forward.
Maybe I should be the,
You should. Not about this stuff, just about the sort of economy. And 2020 is definitely shaping up to be not the, say, greatest looking year. And I would only say, if any sort of budgeting we can do, to be as sharp as possible on 2020, because I think that, well, like I said, these guys make a living being right, and they have said 2020 is definitely at some particular point in 2020 it's not going to continue to go up.
well, as
So-
you can see on the special, we are, we don't have a specific number yet, but we are looking to put a significant number into stabilization and OPEB trust. One of the things that is fairly recent is dog park project. After the lowest responsible bidder has been, I don't want to say awarded, a contract, because it really depends ultimately on whether or not the funding will be there to do it. You probably remember we had about $170,000 from the Standing Foundation, which was also in some fashion also assisted by some local contributions, but the town is responsible for 10% of the project cost. We had hoped that the bids would be in lower, but the lowest bid wasn't qualified, didn't submit all the appropriate information, qualifications. So right now, it's looking like we've got about a $40,000 deficit in that project. So that's something that's maybe a little bit new to people. Article 4 is to hopefully fund a police collective bargaining agreement that I think we're pretty close with. We, as you know, Article 5, we tend to balance our snow deficit at the end of the fiscal year rather than carry it on into the next fiscal year. Article 6 is to rescind the ambulance enterprise fund, as we've discussed this before. It's important to do it on the special so it doesn't carry over into FY20. And there are some, Article 7, some expenses relevant to the Strawberry Golf Course in this fiscal year.
I think, that, nothing, if there's any other questions, like I said, my understanding, Matt, is that you're looking to go over this in more detail on 2 weeks from tonight?
Correct,
when you have.
yes.
So, again, it's possible it'll change a little bit, but I tend to think that it's pretty fixed at this point. As far as the annual goes, I mean, a lot of it is something you're fairly used to. I would say that something that there may be a little bit of attention to some of little bit of the detail on the, the capital plan, which can be a little bit, sometimes this conversation about that. Whether it's, the roof replacement on the senior center, that's one thing I know that it's, we've had a lot of conversation about. The granite curbing here at Town Hall, last year we did replace most of the library, $35,000. We also were looking at about $70,000 that was appropriated last year for resurfacing the entire parking lots, Town Hall Library. So that's still in the accounts to finish that after the granite curbing is installed. This is the $70,000 for resurfacing the Woodsdale parking lot. Those are the general fund request. Article 5 is to fund other collective bargaining agreements. We have the Managers Association and the the DPW Association. Those are the other 2 contracts that we hope to have in place by then. You're familiar with the CPC, you've heard that presentation, and they'll be in front of the Board of Selectmen on Monday night, going through the same, essentially the same presentation. Article 8 is $360,000 for purchase of a new ambulance. I know you heard the chief discuss that. Whether that's borrowed, leased, whatever the case is, the article leaves that open for the will of the town based upon what the final recommendation is. Obviously, you know the importance of that. Article 10 is the funding for the feasibility study for the fire station project. That's $100,000, which right now we presume it'll be coming out of free cash. And then some zoning, which I'm not the least bit qualified to speak on at the moment, or ever. And then there's a number of, by the treasurer collector, more ministerial, so to speak. We can speak to those in more detail in a couple of weeks. Number 17 is, for those of you who aren't aware, for the last several years we've had planning stages, approval planning stages of installing a roundabout at the intersection of Chestnut and North Quincy Street around the Brockton line.
Oh, thank God.
This was the state's recommendation after significant studies, so.
That's where there's an apartment complex on the right, and then you
Abington.
cross into Brockton.
Abington,
thank
Glen,
God.
and Chestnut Glen.
Yeah.
What Article 17 is doing is essentially approving the taking of land in the form of easements if necessary. And the Abington needs 3 easements. And 18 is to update, review and update the zoning bylaw, keeping in mind that this is intended to follow on the heels of an updated master plan, which makes sense to the extent that once you have a master plan, so many times master plans throughout the Commonwealth, they sit on the shelf for the next generation. The goal is not to let that happen. It's to move into some action, strategic planning phase, and that's part of the rationale for this at that time. Article 20 and 21, Article 20 is a fairly new requirement that cable access corporations, the revenue that funds through, that runs through there from Comcast, Verizon, it now has to go through the town, which some people wonder why. We wonder why, because it's a private corporation. But what Article 20 does is it basically creates that mechanism for the revenue to come through the town, and then be essentially granted to the Cable Access Corporation. Whether or not it makes sense is irrelevant. July 1, we have to do this.
Wait, what, can you just explain that one more time? It's for everybody in
This
Abington
is a
to
state
have
mandate.
cable?
No, this is for, right now, the Cable Access Corporation receives revenue from Comcast and Verizon on a monthly basis. Which again, they're a private corporation. However, effective July 1, they will no longer be taking revenue. The revenue will come to the town. The town then has to have a mechanism to get those funds to the Cable Access Corporation. Seems a little counterintuitive. I assume it's a checks and balances measured by the Commonwealth, which you may, and this is no disregard for our Cable Access Corporation or others around the state, but I can only assume what the point is, and I assume the point is to have more accountability for the funds that come in through, which ultimately start with the ratepayer. Ratepayers end up paying Comcast and Verizon, and ultimately the goal, I think, is to have that run through the town for checks and balances. Again, I'm only presuming that's the case. This is new to all of us. So if you look at the warrants of just about every town in the state right now, you'll see an article similar to this.
And what do we have to do? So we have to
We just have
collect
to-
the money. Who's paying the money?
Well, the Comcast and Verizon pay the money.
So they pay the money to this PEG?
Yes, right, exactly. Used to go directly to the Cable Access Corporation. Now it has to flow through the town.
And the Cable Access Corporation has anything to do with Abington?
Well, not from, in
Not
terms of a legal entity
Government,
standpoint?
not governmentally.
No. Yes, well said, well said.
Wow, I've
Yeah.
never heard of
Well,
anything.
again, it
It's
was,
very strange.
yeah. So this creates a mechanism to do that. That's all that does. And I'm trying to, Article 21 is important because it's the article that adopts
The follow-up to last year's
Exactly.
zoning.
Right, the 3% of total sales revenue that comes to the municipalities upon reaching an agreement with marijuana, retail marijuana. stand.
Any applicants yet?
No, there's been some, inquiries over the last year. Generally, people looking for copies of, what the town has voted. I know we had one that was actually, just couldn't find an appropriate site, even though there was interest. Right now, I know there's some interest. I know the planning board's been approached by, some of those same nuts and bolts questions, but the process starts with an application to the Board of Selectmen to negotiate a host community agreement. And that's where the process starts. And we haven't got any of those yet. We haven't had any significant or serious inquiries yet. But you have to know it's coming. We all know it's coming. And the next article is a petition.
So this would get rid of the plastic bags, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
What is it?
Plastic bag ban.
An article,
To ban plastic bags?
correct.
What do you mean?
So like when you go to a store, you don't have a plastic bag, you have to bring your own.
Stores in town would not be allowed to distribute items in plastic bags, essentially.
What
They're
oh my God,
terrible.
Do I miss something about them?
They're terrible for the environment.
We don't,
Boston already did
we don't
this.
put them in the recycle thing?
No, you
Yeah,
can't.
it's-
You ruin all the recycling.
If you've been doing that, you might want to not.
Yeah, that's very bad.
No, I don't even have plastic bags at my house, Rick. Thanks for asking.
No, I just,
Yeah, no, that's why. You can't put them in the recycling. They just go in the trash. They fill in landfills. They're terrible.
so again, this is by petition.
Yeah, which is good. Yeah, because now you can rinse
Boston
the
passed this,
cardboard cup and put it in the recycling.
But,
At least that's what I-
This isn't that new, that's right, Russ. So-
Cambridge, I think, yeah, right? Is that what you're saying? Like other towns do that.
Boston did, yeah. 'cause I
Boston,
know it's
Cambridge,
Sometime in the
yeah.
last
Yeah.
4 or 5 months.
Cambridge, I think, might have been first.
What
But
they do? This?
Boston already passed this, yeah, so you
Yeah,
don't.
Cambridge too,
You
yeah,
can't
I
get
know.
plastic bags in Boston without paying
you
extra
have to
for
pay
it.
money for them.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Downtown Boston.
Yeah, in Cambridge, yeah, like if you go grocery
So-
shopping in Cambridge, you don't bring your own bags, you have to pay for your bags.
Greg, we're approaching 9 o'clock. I will suggest you read.
Yeah, just
all
move
of
on.
the- all
No
of
more
the
plastic
wording of
bags.
This article when you go home
So
tonight.
one last thing then, the last article is planning board. Right now, we have a fill permit requirement, so if you bring in X amount of fill, you're required to get a permit with the planning board. The bylaw that's in place now doesn't have any enforcement provision in it. Now, what I've got to figure out is that whether or not we need this entire bylaw, or we just need the specific update or addition for the enforcement provision. That's a
For fill?
form over substance issue, which will settle out in the next 2 days, 3 weeks. So, again, I know we'll be discussing this in 2 weeks, but if you have any questions in the meantime. just
We may
don't
discuss it
hesitate to ask.
again next week. Next week is a lighter slate of departments as well, so
Very good. So like I said, if you have questions,
Study the-
let us know.
study these,
Yeah.
the ones that have financial impact
Mhm.
specifically.
Which aren't nearly as interesting as the other
No.
ones. And as you know, we continue to work towards, we hope to have our insurance rate renewal before next week, which will help, as you know, we're trying to close a gap of somewhat over $200,000. We're hoping that that takes a major chunk out of it. Working with Peter and Felicia and others to find an acceptable way for us to close that gap. And like I said, I know, Mike, it's near and dear to you, but we certainly intend to put some money in stabilization.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Because we didn't put any money, we didn't even put any money in there last year, correct? Yeah, I think we need to put money in there this year, I agree, yeah.
So, all right. Any other questions? I told you I wouldn't keep you too long. I know you got 5 of 9 you're looking to get out of here.
That's my
Anyone else?
bedtime.
Questions for Rick?
These for distribution.
Yeah,
Yes, help yourself.
My comment on 5 of 9 was more that Greg can read the details. of
About his,
that
the plastic bag.
Helping the
Plastic
process along.
bags.
Thank you.
separate, as that's not necessarily a financial issue for the committee. Do we have any liaison reports?
Sounds like we're getting a printer.
Thank you for that report, Greg. We have mail. We have Beacon, and Renee gets this week's copy of it.
Thank you.
We have meeting minutes from our meeting last week on March 27th.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Is there any discussion
Sorry, who
on
was
the?
it? Was it Mike or
It
Greg?
was,
No, the first one.
oh, it's Mike and then
And Russ.
Russ.
Thank you.
And the meeting minutes from March 27th, very expertly prepared and very detailed. Any discussion? Without any, all those in favor of approving the minutes? All those opposed? All those
Oh,
abstaining?
no, I meant abstaining. Not opposed.
They are approved. Are there any further points that people want to bring up? Our next meeting is next week on the 10th.
I know we have one the 17th. I'm free school vacation, but we're aware that school vacation
Yes,
week,
we
right?
are aware
Okay.
that it's school vacation. It was
I know there's not much, yeah.
unavoidable at this point.
Yeah,
as
that's what I mean,
the
like I said, it's not.
Deadlines are getting closer, and
Is that the night we intend to go over the warrant?
that is the night we will go over the warrant, start going over the warrant, and South Shore VOTEC will be here.
If you have any questions, Renee, feel free to give me a call to discuss any of the articles since you won't be here.
No, I'll be here. I just didn't know if we all knew.
She
we
was just making sure.
Yeah, because usually we don't
Because
have a meeting on April
We
vacation.
try to
Oh, no,
avo-
Mike.
We try to avoid school vacation.
Maybe next
'cause
year.
people
I'll
tend
have
to
it.
be away,
Yeah, but yeah, I didn't know if,
Well, you can call me anytime.
okay. If I have questions about plastic bags. Just kidding. Just kidding, Greg.
I don't understand it.
They're just very bad for the environment. You know, I'm big into recycling.
There's a lot of things that are bad for the environment. I don't think plastic bags is up there. But I
Any
might be wrong.
further topics for tonight's discussion?
Motion to adjourn?
Hear a motion, is there a
Second.
There's a motion
Hold that.
and a second, although, any discussion on the motion to adjourn? No discussion, all those in favor of adjourning? It is unanimous, we are adjourned.